If you've clicked this video, then chances are you are captivated by the magic of the night sky, just like I am. Perhaps you've seen a photograph of a distant galaxy, or maybe even a photo of weather systems on another planet and thought to yourself, hang on, I want to do that too. You are not alone. So I'm aiming to help you make some of the most important decisions that you'll make in your astrophotography journey going forwards before you even spend a single dime, and in doing so, hopefully save you a lot of frustration and potentially a heck of a lot of money. Now, the first question we need to ask is quite a simple one. What do you actually want to take photographs of? Now, as I said, this does sound very simple. So let's begin figuring this out. We're going to break down astrophotography into two main categories: planetary and deep sky. Now, there are a few subcategories within those, and we will get to those at the appropriate time. But for right now, we're just going to focus on planetary. So first off, planetary. It's an umbrella term encompassing lunar, solar, comets, and planetary itself. One of the major appeals, and this can't be overstated, is the very dynamic nature of planetary astrophotography. No two photographs are ever truly the same. You can take photos and time lapses and actually see the rotation of Jupiter. For example, you can see cloud patterns evolving on Mars, the ever-changing faces of the moon, endless solar features, and there's very often a comet or two as well at any given time. Now, I think it's fair to say that planetary astrophotography is very seasonal in its approach. There will be times where you've got no end of things that you want to be getting on with. All the planets are up and the moon and a few comets, and you just won't know where to apply yourself. But the opposite is also true. Like, take me, for example. Right now, I love taking photographs of the planets. No matter how much I want to right now, though, I quite simply can't. There are no planets above the horizon for me at this moment in time. There is the moon and maybe a few comets, but really, that's it. Now, with planetary, the good news is that the captures themselves typically don't take that long, to be honest with you. It's really very much the opposite of deep sky in that regard. If you have a few hours ahead of you on a clear night and a few targets up that you want to actually take photographs of, it's really reasonable to assume that you're going to be able to take photographs of all of them and have nice images at the end of that, and then you can go ahead and take more photos the next clear night and have different snapshots in time of these objects. It's a really highly appealing way of doing things. I think it's very much living in the moment rather than heavy planning ahead like deep sky is, but I think it would be very unfair of me to imply that planetary doesn't involve planning, because it certainly does. Some of the best planetary photos come as a result of planning, particularly for occultations, for example, or perhaps even as simple as just waiting for Jupiter's rotation to be correct and taking photographs of the Great Red Spot, for example. If you like the idea anyway of smash and grab sessions, then planetary is probably the right calling for you. I certainly find it very appealing myself. Next up, let's shift our gaze over to deep sky, which can be broken down into a few subcategories such as nebulae, galaxies, clusters, and wide field, although they can also be described really as its own thing. Now, deep sky is typically not very dynamic when compared to planetary. In fact, I really think it's most fair to describe it as the total opposite. The objects that we're viewing, they don't really change at all, meaningfully at least, over the course of a human lifespan, and the objects which you can observe changes in terms of deep sky, such as the core of the Crab Nebula, just for example, are going to have observable changes over the course of decades, not days and minutes. So it's not at all unreasonable to think that you might be able to start a project this year on a galaxy, for example, or whatever else takes your fancy, and add more data to it next year and the year after and the year after, going forward for as long as you would like. It's quite cool in that regard. I think it's also fair to add, though, that there are a few fleeting events really limited to deep sky which you might want to take advantage of whenever they're up and imageable, such as supernovas, for example. That is something that you might want to drop other projects temporarily for and, start taking your images while the chance is there. I think finally, though, unlike planetary, where you can go a while without really much to see, that feast or famine kind of thing, there is always something that you can take a photograph of with deep sky. There is no end of targets which are suitable. Some are definitely going to be more suited to certain telescopes rather than others, shorter focal lengths or longer focal lengths, just for example, but you will never be short of something to do. Now, finally, as a last point really about Deep Sky, it does have a degree of seasonality in that certain objects won't be imageable for part of the year. So there are summer targets and winter targets, and you can revisit them, as we talked about, year after year, no problem at all. And I think one of the key things is about this though is that if you do miss your opportunity to take a photograph of, let's say, the Orion Nebula this year, this winter, it's no real big deal. You can go ahead and just take your photograph of it next year. It'll still be there. It's not like Planetary, where if you miss the opportunity to shoot a rare dust storm on Mars or something, you may never see it again. So it's quite cool in that it's a little bit more relaxed. So with those two categories briefly explored, it might be time to start thinking about which one of those actually appeals to you the most at this point. Is it the meticulous, planned artistry of Deep Sky, or is it the chase, the ever-changing chase of Planetary? Now, the big thing here is I would advise you to take your time in making this decision and figuring out exactly which direction you want to go when you get started in astrophotography, because while there is some gear crossover between the two pursuits, you know, Planetary and Deep Sky, you can use some of the same equipment in some cases. There isn't a total crossover in most cases, I would say. So take your time, don't rush into a bad decision, and certainly do make use of social media, ask questions, maybe take a look at local groups. That could be a great way to actually start without any significant outlay up front, maybe just a membership cost and that kind of thing. But I think social media is going to be one of the main things that you should spend a little bit of time on. Can't believe I'm saying that, but you know, there it is. Look at videos, look at images, and see what other people are doing, what they're actually spending their time on, and see what really gets you going. That's the key thing, because a bad decision now could be ultimately disastrous for your astrophotography career going forwards, and also very costly too. Now, once you've settled this, that initial distinction is going to lead us very neatly into video 2 on the subject, where we're going to talk more about choosing the correct gear. So at this point, I'd just like to say thank you very much indeed for watching and giving me your time. If you found this video at all useful, then please do leave a like on it for me, as it really does help out quite a lot. And if you aren't already subscribed, then please consider subscribing to my channel too. It's totally free, and it really does mean a great deal. So thank you so much for your support in all the ways you give it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next part. So until then, clear skies.